Hi, my name is Sydney Clymer-Engelhart. It is January 4th, 2023, and I have a paper of the different facial and skull bones as well as all the carpal bones. And the first thing I wanted to talk about are the two different divisions that the skeletal system are distinguished by, which is the axial and appendicular systems. The axial system includes all of the skull and facial bones and the thoracic cage, which makes up the ribs and sternum, as well as the vertebral column. The appendicular system includes all the bones that help connect to the center or to the axial system, which includes the pectoral girdle, the pelvic girdle, and all of the bones in the arms and limbs. All right. So then I'll go with my model. So we're going to start with the bones of the facial and skull bones. So the occipital bone is going to be at the back of the skull right here. We got the two sides of the parietal bones up on the top, the left and the right. The temporal bone is located on the side, on both sides of the skull, right on here, right next to the zygomatic bone, which you can see where the zygomatic arch is on this side as well as this side. From there, you'll see the sutures that make the sphenoid bone. And then from in there, we go into the sockets of the eye, or the orbital sockets. On the inside, more towards the distal part, you'll see the ethmoid bone. Closer to the nasal bone right here is on the outside. Connecting to the nasal bone, also on the inside of the orbit, is the lacrimal bone. And then on the inside of the nasal bone is the vomer. Right here on the upper jaw, that's called the maxilla. And then the bottom, where the bottom jaw is, that's called the mandible. All right. So from there, I could talk about the vertebral column. So they're all irregular shaped bones. We have at the very top where the neck is, those are the cervical vertebral column. The next 12 bones of the vertebral column are called the thoracic vertebra. Then lower bottom are the cervical spine, or the vertebral column, or the for up here is cervical, the middle ones are thoracic, and the bottom ones are lumbar. Next, we have the sacrum right underneath and the coccyx. All right, now back to the front. The last part of the axial system is the ribs, all 12 ribs right here, and the sternum, which comes down right in the middle of the chest. All right, and then next is the appendicular system. Let's start with at the very front, these two bones right here that come across right above, that connect to the sternum, are the clavicles. And then found on the back of the body on either side is these two are called the scapula. All right, and then from there, these can be found bilaterally on the model. These are the humerus, the bone that is more lateral and that connects to the where the thumb is, that is the radius. That would be this top bone right here. The ulna would be this bottom one. And then you can go into the little carpals of the hand. So we're going to start out from the distal to the proximal. We have the scaphoid, the lunate, the triquetrum, and the pisiform. And then more distal, the next row, we have the trapezium, the trapezoid, the capitate, and the hamate. And then from there, You have the metacarpals and the phalanges, and this is found on both sides of the model. From there, we go to the pelvic girdle, which is found right here. The three main parts of the pelvic girdle include the ilium, the ischium, and the pubis. From there, you have these two bones, again bilaterally. These are the femur. It's the longest bone of the body. And then from there, this larger one is the tibia, and the smaller, more slender one is the fibula. And then from there, we have the feet, or the bones of the feet. The one right underneath these two bones is the talus. The one on the very bottom that sticks out is the calcaneus. And then the rest of these are the metatarsals and phalanges of the foot. And again, that could be found on both sides of the skeleton. Right here, again, the talus on top, calcaneus on the bottom, and the rest are the metatarsals and phalanges. All right, and then there are different types of bones. So the sutural bones are typically found on the very top of the skull, right here. Kind of see that. It's just all the flat bones that are found right next to the sutures of the skull. You have the pneumatized bones, which are filled with a lot of air pockets. An example of that would be the ethmoid bone found in the skull, part of the facial bone. Next, you have short bones. They're very box-like and small. Examples of those would be the carpals or tarsals of the hands and feet. As you can see right here, these small bones. Next ones are irregular shaped. They don't really have a certain classification for their shape or size. So an example of that would be the vertebral column, since they're all differently shaped compared with the other bones. Another example would be flat bones. Again, they would be flat and easily distinguishable because they run parallel a lot to the some of the bones. So examples of that would be both of the clavicles on each side and the sternum in the middle. Next, you have long bones. They're typically long and slender, like I just said. They're seen as some of the longer and bigger bones of the body. Examples of those include the humerus in the upper limb and the femur in the bottom limb. And the last one is sesamoid. They kind of look like little round seeds in the body. There aren't too many. The one big example that I would give is the patellar bone, which is pretty much the kneecap found right here, right above, more superficial to the femur and inferior to the tibia and fibula. So those are examples of that. And then a clinical application that I think is important in nursing school would be when giving CPR, you are being taught where to push down, especially in the middle of the chest, in order to give beats or give pressure to the heart in order to make it beat again. And typically, you clasp your hands together like this in a fist and put it right over the sternum. And sometimes the amount of pressure that you put to give CPR could possibly break the sternum in the process. I've seen it happen before as I work right now in the emergency department. It's important to give CPR because it will save that person's life. But it's also really interesting to know that there's so much pressure being put into pumping the chest so hard that it could possibly break the sternum because it is a flat bone and it's not very thick in general. So I think even though the sternum is important, there's more discretion and importance in saving a person's life by giving them CPR rather than just letting the bone be careful and not break. So that's my video, and thank you for watching.